The Phantom Sniper. Part 1. Introduction to Character and Conflict. Desert night. Pitch black. The howling wind carries the unmistakable crack of machine gun fire echoing off stone walls. An American SEAL team lies pinned down, ammunition nearly spent, blood-streaked faces illuminated by distant muzzle flashes. Sergeant Mitchell's voice breaks through static, barely a whisper. "This is it. No one's coming. We're already dead men." Then a single rifle shot rings out from the distant ridge. The valley falls silent as an enemy fighter drops instantly. The SEALs exchange bewildered glances. Who fired that shot? Where did it come from? And why does it feel like salvation has arrived from the most unexpected direction? 72 hours earlier, Emily Reed, 27, pulls her auburn hair into a practical bun as dawn breaks over the New Mexico mountains. Her compact frame belies the strength forged through years in this unforgiving terrain. The Barrett rifle beside her gleams in the first light, a weapon most men in her unit claim is too heavy for her. Every morning begins the same way. 5-mile run, strength training, then precision shooting at targets most would consider impossible. But Emily isn't training to meet standards. She's training to shatter them. The Reed cabin sits isolated among pine trees, deliberately distanced from civilization. Inside, photographs tell a story. A younger Emily with her father, Master Sergeant James Reed, once the most celebrated sniper in special operations history. Emily runs her fingers along the worn stock of her father's old hunting rifle. The memories flood back age 12, high in the mountains, her father's weathered hand adjusting her grip. "Listen to the wind, Emily," he'd said, voice graveled from years of desert deployments. "It tells you everything you need to know." For hours, they'd wait for the perfect shot. Other fathers taught patience through fishing. James Reed taught it through the scope of a rifle. "You don't need many shots in life," he told her, "but the ones you take must count for everything." What her father never mentioned were the nightmares that plagued him after returning from his final deployment, the mission that left him with a limp, a purple heart, and demons that eventually drove him to isolation. His legendary status collapsed into bitter silence after the incident that was only referred to as Kandahar. The military gave him medals. The memories gave him torment. Now, James Reed lives alone in a veterans facility, rarely speaking, never mentioning his former life. He hasn't responded to Emily's letters in 2 years. But she carries his lessons into battle. The SEAL training facility buzzes with activity as Emily reports for the morning briefing. As the only woman in the tactical support unit, she's become accustomed to the sideways glances and whispered comments. "Tagalong's here," someone mutters as she enters the room. The nickname stings, but she keeps her expression neutral, finding her seat at the back. Sergeant Mitchell, 38, with a build like a heavyweight boxer and scars from 3 combat tours, spreads satellite imagery across the table. His voice carries the weight of command. Hostage extraction. 3 American engineers held in this compound. His finger taps a cluster of buildings nestled in a desert valley. Intel reports approximately 20 insurgents, light weaponry, minimal coordination, standard smash and grab. Emily studies the topography, her eyes drawn to the northern ridge overlooking the entire valley. "Sir," she interjects, "has anyone considered establishing an overwatch position here?" Her finger indicates the elevated position. It provides line of sight to all approach vectors and potential escape routes. The room falls silent before erupting in laughter. "That climb will kill you before the enemy does," someone calls out. Mitchell silences them with a raised hand, but his expression remains skeptical. "Torres, that's a near vertical ascent in the dark. No tactical advantage justifies that risk." "Reed," she corrects quietly. "My name is Reed, sir." "Reed, rear support only," Mitchell responds, dismissing her input. "You'll maintain communications while we execute the primary mission." Emily nods, the familiar disappointment settling in her chest. Another mission watching from the sidelines. As the team disperses, a figure approaches from the shadows of the briefing room. Lieutenant Alexandra Parker, 42, with steel gray eyes and the composed demeanor that comes from 15 years in military intelligence. Unlike the others, she doesn't underestimate Emily Reed. "That was a good tactical observation," Parker says quietly, falling into step beside Emily. "The northern ridge does provide superior coverage." Emily glances sideways, surprised by the validation. "Thank you, ma'am, but apparently it's too difficult to access." "Most worthwhile positions are." Parker's voice carries an edge of experience. "I've reviewed your marksmanship scores. They're exceptional, better than anyone currently deployed with this unit." Emily stops walking. "With all due respect, Lieutenant, why are you telling me this?" Parker surveys the training ground thoughtfully. "Because I recognize the look of someone being systematically underestimated. I wore that look for 10 years. She hands Emily a small device, a high-precision GPS unit not standard in their equipment inventory. "There's something wrong with this intelligence," Parker continues, her voice barely audible. "The pattern doesn't match standard insurgent operations. We've seen this before, in Kandahar." Emily freezes at the mention. "Kandahar? Like the operation my father." "I can't say more," Parker interrupts. "But if things go sideways out there, do what you believe is right." She taps the GPS unit. "Sometimes the path no one thinks you can take is exactly the one you should." Before Emily can respond, Parker disappears into the command center, leaving Emily holding the advanced GPS and a mind full of questions. That night, while her teammates drink beer and share war stories, Emily slips away to the training ground. She lies in the cold sand, practicing breathing techniques, perfecting trigger control, studying wind patterns. The conversation with Parker echoes in her mind. Kandahar, the operation that broke her father. Emily checks her Barrett rifle one final time, each movement precise and methodical. Whatever waits in that desert valley, she'll be ready, authorized or not. Dawn breaks over the horizon as the team boards the extraction helicopters. Emily takes her assigned position with the communications equipment, the Barrett rifle secured across her back despite not being part of her official loadout. Sergeant Mitchell raises an eyebrow but says nothing. As the helicopter lifts off, Emily's gaze fixes on the distant northern ridge. "An impossible climb," they said, but impossible has always sounded like a challenge to Emily Reed. The desert spreads beneath them like an ancient ocean frozen in time, its waves of sand and stone holding secrets older than civilization. And somewhere ahead, a trap is waiting, one that connects to her father's past and will determine her future. Part 2. Development of Problems and Challenges. The extraction helicopters descend toward the valley floor, rotors churning dust into golden clouds as the first light of dawn breaks across the horizon. Emily monitors communications from her position, hearing the practiced efficiency in the voices of the SEAL team as they prepare to deploy. "Touchdown in 30 seconds, the pilot announces. "No movement detected in the target area." Sergeant Mitchell's voice crackles through the headset. "All units ready for deployment. Standard formation. Advance to primary objective." The calm before the storm lasts exactly 22 seconds. As the first team members touch ground, the world erupts in chaos. Machine gun fire rips through the morning air from multiple concealed positions. RPGs scream overhead, detonating against nearby rock formations with precision that suggests extensive training. "Taking fire, multiple positions," Mitchell shouts through the radio. "This isn't right. There's at least 50 hostiles with heavy weapons." Emily's stomach drops as she watches the operation disintegrate in seconds. The intelligence wasn't just wrong, it was catastrophically wrong. This isn't a simple hostage situation with 20 lightly armed insurgents. It's a sophisticated ambush, executed by what appears to be a battalion-sized force with professional military training. The helicopter pilot jerks the controls, banking hard to avoid incoming fire. "We've got to pull back. RPG teams on the ridgeline." As the helicopter retreats to a safer distance, Emily watches the tactical disaster unfolding below. The SEAL team is split into 3 fire teams, desperately seeking cover among scattered boulders and abandoned structures. The radio fills with urgent status reports. Alpha Team pinned down, multiple machine gun positions to our west. Bravo taking heavy fire from elevated positions. Charlie Team, we've got RPGs coming in from 3 directions. Can advance or retreat. Mitchell's voice cuts through with growing desperation. Base, this is Talon 6. We are surrounded and heavily outnumbered. Ammunition running low. Request immediate air support. The response crushes every hope. Talon 6, negative on air support. Weather system moving in from the east is grounding all aircraft. You are on your own until conditions clear. Emily checks the meteorological data. The storm front will block air support for at least 7 hours. The team won't last 30 minutes against this onslaught. The helicopter circles at a safe distance, unable to provide meaningful assistance without being shot down. Emily sits with the communications equipment, her Barrett rifle across her knees, listening as her teammates are slowly overwhelmed. The mathematics are brutally simple. 22 Americans against more than 200 well-armed, well-positioned fighters who control every tactical advantage. The outcome is inevitable unless something changes dramatically. Emily's internal struggle rages with an intensity matching the external battle. If she follows orders, she'll remain in the helicopter, maintaining radio contact while watching her teammates get systematically eliminated. If she breaks protocol, she might attempt what everyone declared impossible, reaching the northern ridge she identified during mission planning. Fear and doubt crash through her like waves. What if she can't make the climb? What if she gives away her position? What if her attempt to help actually makes the situation worse? But beneath the fear lies a deeper current, the memory of her father's words. When everyone says it's over, that's when your shot matters most. Emily makes her decision with crystal clarity. She turns to the pilot, her voice steady. I need you to drop me 2 kilometers north of the engagement zone. The pilot stares in disbelief. That's nowhere near the extraction point. I know, Emily replies, already checking her equipment. I'm going to establish an overwatch position. Alone, on that ridge? That's suicide. Emily secures the Barrett rifle and ammunition. No, it's their only chance. She keys her radio one final time. Communications, maintaining position in support helicopter, she reports, knowing it's a necessary deception. Then she signals the pilot to make the drop. The moment her boots hit the ground, Emily activates the GPS unit Parker provided. It displays not just topographical data, but also what appears to be a pre-mapped route up the supposedly inaccessible northern face. Parker had anticipated this scenario. The question is, why? The ascent is everything her teammates predicted: steep, exposed, and brutally difficult to navigate while carrying 35 pounds of sniper equipment. Sharp rocks tear at her hands and knees. The desert sun beats down mercilessly as she climbs, each handhold a battle against gravity and exhaustion. But Emily had studied this terrain obsessively during mission preparation. She knows every rock formation, every potential route, every angle that provides concealment from enemy observation. As she climbs, the sounds of battle echo from the valley below. Each burst of gunfire means her teammates are still alive, still fighting, but also burning through their limited ammunition with every passing minute. Halfway up the ridge, Emily discovers something unexpected, a narrow path worn into the stone, barely visible unless you're looking for it. Someone has climbed this route before, and recently. Following the path, she encounters an abandoned position, a sniper's nest with weathered sandbags and empty cartridge casings bearing U.S. military markings. The position offers perfect sightlines to the valley below, exactly as she had predicted during the briefing. Emily examines a shell casing, its manufacturing date indicating it's at least 5 years old. A cold realization washes over her. This position has been used before in a previous operation. Perhaps even Kandahar. The implications spiral through her mind as she continues upward. This wasn't just a random ambush. Someone knew exactly how U.S. forces would respond because they'd seen it before. Emily reaches the ridgeline just as Mitchell's voice crackles through her earpiece. All units, prepare for final defensive positions. We're almost out of options. She settles into a prone shooting position among the granite boulders, her Barrett rifle steady on its bipod. Through her scope, the valley spreads out like a deadly chessboard where her teammates are trapped in an impossible game. The tactical situation is worse than she imagined. The enemy has established interlocking fields of fire that prevent any movement. Multiple heavy machine gun positions systematically destroy any cover the SEALs attempt to use. Mortar teams are bracketing their position with increasing accuracy, but Emily also sees something else: opportunities invisible from ground level. The command structure of the enemy force becomes clear through their movement patterns and communication relays. Their sophisticated operation has a backbone that can be severed with precision fire. Emily begins her pre-shooting ritual, controlling her breathing, calculating wind speed and direction, measuring distances. The first target will be the heavy machine gun position that has Bravo team pinned down a shot of approximately 850 meters with a 12 miles per hour crosswind. She adjusts her scope, compensating for bullet drop and wind drift. The Barrett's weight, which others mocked her for managing, now becomes her anchor to stability. Through her scope, she sees Sergeant Mitchell reaching for his radio, likely to initiate surrender negotiations, the only option left to save his men. Emily whispers the same prayer her father taught her before every critical shot. One shot. Make it count. Her finger finds the trigger, and she begins the most important shooting of her life. The Barrett roars, its massive recoil absorbed by her perfectly positioned body. Through the scope, she watches the heavy machine gunner drop instantly. For a moment, the entire battlefield seems to freeze in confusion. Emily immediately shifts position. Just as her father taught her never fire twice from the same location, she acquires her second target, the spotter for the mortar team that's been raining death on Alpha team. Breathe in, breathe half out, hold, squeeze. Another shot echoes across the valley. Another enemy fighter falls. Through her scope, Emily sees her teammates looking skyward, searching for the source of their unexpected salvation. Mitchell spins in confusion, unable to identify where the shots are coming from. Emily continues her methodical elimination of high-value targets, radio operators, RPG teams, spotters, and command elements. Each shot is calculated for maximum tactical impact. Each target selected to systematically dismantle the enemy's ability to coordinate their attack. As she works, movement on the far eastern ridge catches her attention, a small team of fighters moving toward her position. They've begun to realize the threat and are dispatching a counter-sniper team. Emily must now divide her attention between supporting her teammates below and preventing her own position from being compromised. The margin for error vanishes completely. A glint of metal from the eastern approach reveals a spotter with binoculars scanning her ridgeline. She shifts deeper into shadow, becoming one with the stone around her. The counter-sniper team continues advancing, now less than a kilometer from her position. Emily has a choice: continue supporting the main SEAL element or eliminate the immediate threat to herself. Both options carry deadly consequences if mishandled. The answer comes unexpectedly. Gunfire erupts behind the advancing counter-sniper team. Through her scope, Emily sees Lieutenant Parker leading a small special operations team, engaging the enemy from an unexpected direction. Parker had planned for this contingency all along, positioning a backup team to support from the shadows. Read. Parker's voice comes through a separate radio frequency. We'll handle the counter-snipers. You focus on breaking their command structure. With renewed focus, Emily returns her attention to the main battlefield, where the tide is beginning to turn. The enemy, confused by the precise elimination of their leadership and key weapons teams, has begun to lose coordination. Mitchell seizes the opportunity, reorganizing his scattered teams for a coordinated breakout toward better defensive terrain. Through her scope, Emily identifies the ultimate target, the enemy commander, distinguishable by the deference shown by others and his position behind the main fighting elements. He moves between covered positions, clearly aware that a sniper is operating somewhere above. The distance is nearly 1,200 meters at the extreme edge of effective range. Wind gusts unpredictably through the canyon. The target moves erratically, never exposed for more than a few seconds at a time. It's the most difficult shot of Emily's life, attempted under conditions that would challenge any marksman in the world. If she misses, the enemy commander will likely locate her position from the shot signature. If she succeeds, the entire enemy force might collapse into disarray. 22 lives depend on this single bullet finding its mark across more than a kilometer of desert air filled with swirling wind patterns. Emily controls her breathing, calculating wind drift and bullet drop with mathematical precision. She waits for the perfect moment when all variables align, when physics, skill, and opportunity converge. "One shot," she whispers. "Make it count." Part 3. Resolution and Conclusion. The Barrett rifle bucks violently against Emily's shoulder as the round erupts from the barrel at nearly 3,000 feet per second. Through her scope, she tracks the invisible path of her bullet across the vast distance, time stretching like taffy in the moment between firing and impact. 1,200 meters away, the enemy commander drops instantly, his radio scattering across the sand. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happens. Then chaos erupts, not the coordinated assault of before, but the panicked disintegration of a force suddenly without leadership. Orders stop flowing. Coordinated fire breaks down into scattered, ineffective shots. Through her scope, Emily watches as Mitchell seizes the moment, his voice clear through the radio. All teams advance, push through their eastern flank while they're disorganized. The remaining fighters, seeing their command structure collapse under fire from an invisible sniper who can reach them from impossible distances, begin a disorganized retreat into the surrounding desert. What had been a devastating ambush transforms into a rout in the opposite direction. Emily continues providing overwatch, eliminating any pockets of organized resistance that threaten her teammates' advance. Every shot precise, every target selected for maximum tactical advantage. Lieutenant Parker's voice comes through the radio. "Reed, we've secured the eastern approach. Exfiltration helicopters inbound once we clear this weather system." Below, Mitchell leads the SEAL teams in a coordinated sweep toward the original objective, the building where the hostages were reportedly held. Emily covers their advance, the Barrett rifle an extension of her will. As the teams breach the compound, a disturbing reality emerges. There are no hostages there, never were. The entire operation was an elaborately staged trap. "Base, this is Mitchell," his voice tight with controlled anger. "No hostages present at objective. I repeat, no hostages. This entire operation was a setup." Emily watches through her scope as the team secure the area, treating their wounded and establishing a defensive perimeter to await extraction. The immediate danger has passed, but questions multiply like desert shadows at dusk. Who would go to such lengths to ambush an American Special Operations team? How did they acquire such detailed knowledge of U.S. tactical responses? And what connection did this have to Kandahar, to her father's final mission? As the storm system clears and extraction helicopters approach, Emily begins her descent from the ridge. The climb down proves almost as challenging as the ascent, her muscles trembling with fatigue and the aftermath of sustained adrenaline. She reaches the valley floor as the first helicopter touches down, dust swirling in the rotor wash. The SEAL operators turn toward her approach, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and dawning recognition. Sergeant Mitchell steps forward, his face showing a complex interplay of emotions, gratitude, respect, and the humbling realization that he had catastrophically misjudged her capabilities. "Reed," he begins, then stops, searching for words adequate to the moment. Emily meets his gaze steadily, her rifle still cradled in arms that have fired 27 confirmed shots without a single miss. Mitchell tries again. "What you did up there?" He gestures toward the ridge. "I've never seen anything like it. The precision, the positioning, the tactical awareness." He shakes his head slowly. "We owe you our lives." Before Emily can respond, Lieutenant Parker approaches, her special operations team following at a respectful distance. "The intelligence failure wasn't accidental," Parker says without preamble. "Someone deliberately fed us false information." She holds up a satellite phone recovered from the enemy commander's position. "This isn't insurgent technology. It's top-tier military hardware." The implications hang in the desert air like the lingering scent of cordite. As the team boards the extraction helicopters, Emily finds herself seated across from Mitchell, the same man who had dismissed her tactical assessment less than 24 hours earlier. "The northern ridge provides superior coverage," he says quietly, echoing her words from the briefing room. "You saw what no one else did." Emily studies the weathered face of the veteran operator. "It wasn't about being right, Sergeant. It was about being ready when readiness mattered most." The helicopter lifts off, carrying them away from a battlefield that will be studied in special operations training for decades to come. The day when a single sniper reversed the outcome of an engagement that, by all tactical assessments, was unwinnable. Dawn breaks over the desert as extraction helicopters touch down at Falcon Base. Rotor wash kicks up clouds of sand and dust as the teams disembark. Emily steps onto the tarmac, her uniform still marked with desert grime and dried blood from the rocky climb. The Barrett rifle slung across her shoulder like an extension of herself. Word of the miraculous rescue has spread through military communication channels with the speed that extraordinary stories always travel among professionals. Personnel emerge from buildings across the compound, drawn by whispers of an impossible tale, a single sniper saving an entire SEAL team from annihilation. The same operators who mocked her marksmanship training now stand in respectful silence. The difference in their eyes tells a story of perceptions permanently altered. A commotion stirs through the gathered crowd as Colonel Whitaker emerges from the command building. The colonel is legendary throughout special warfare for his ice-cold demeanor and impossibly high standards. In 15 years of service, personnel can count on one hand the number of times they've seen him express approval. He walks directly to Emily, stopping precisely 3 feet away according to military protocol. The entire base seems to hold its breath as the two figures face each other in the desert morning light. Colonel Whitaker raises his right hand in a crisp, formal salute, the kind of recognition reserved for acts of extraordinary valor that transcend normal performance standards. Emily returns the salute with equal precision, her spine straight, her expression reflecting the culmination of years of training and determination that has finally found proper recognition. When both hands lower, Whitaker speaks in a voice that carries across the silent compound. "What you accomplished yesterday will be studied in special warfare training programs for decades to come." He pauses, letting the significance register. 27 confirmed enemy kills at ranges exceeding 800 meters, in variable conditions, under extreme pressure, with 0 friendly casualties. The crowd murmurs with appreciation, but Whitaker raises his hand for silence. More importantly, this operation demonstrates that tactical innovation and personal initiative can overcome impossible odds when applied by operators with proper training and absolute dedication. He gestures toward the northern ridge, barely visible in the morning haze. "The position you selected and successfully utilized was dismissed by experienced tactical planners as impractical. Your achievement proves that conventional thinking sometimes creates the very limitations it seeks to avoid." Emily finally speaks, her voice clear and strong. "Just doing my duty, sir, following the training you provided and applying it when circumstances required action." Whitaker's expression almost shifts to a smile, an occurrence so rare that several personnel will remember this moment for years. "Reed, your assigned duty was communication, support, and rear area security. What you did was redefine the tactical possibilities available to small unit operations." As the formal recognition concludes, Lieutenant Parker approaches with a secure tablet displaying classified information. "We've identified the communications signature from the enemy commander's satellite phone," she says quietly. "It matches an encryption protocol used 5 years ago during Operation Broken Arrow in Kandahar." Emily's breath catches. "My father's mission." Parker nods grimly. "The mission that was compromised from within. Someone betrayed your father's team, just as they tried to betray yours yesterday." The pieces begin falling into place: why Parker had been watching Emily, why she'd provided the specialized GPS unit, why she'd positioned a backup team. "You served with my father," Emily realizes. He saved my life in Kandahar, Parker confirms. I couldn't reach him afterward, he shut everyone out. But when I saw his daughter's name assigned to my unit, with marksmanship scores that mirrored his, her voice trails off. I knew history was trying to repeat itself. I couldn't let that happen. Emily processes this connection to her father's past. The mission that broke him was linked to the trap that nearly killed her. There's more, Parker continues. Your father wasn't wrong in Kandahar. His instincts about the compromise were correct, but no one believed him because the evidence disappeared. She holds up the satellite phone. Now we have proof. This might clear his name. Hope flickers in Emily's chest, not just for justice, but for healing the wounds that have kept her father locked in silent isolation for years. 3 days later, Emily stands outside the veterans' facility where her father resides. The building's institutional architecture feels at odds with the heroes it houses. She carries a small box containing the shell casing from her final shot, the one that traveled 1,200 meters to save 22 lives. She finds James Reed sitting in the garden, staring at mountains in the distance. 5 years of self-imposed isolation have aged him beyond his 52 years. He doesn't turn as she approaches. "Dad," she says softly, taking the seat beside him. He doesn't respond immediately, his weathered hands resting motionless on the arms of his wheelchair. When he finally speaks, his voice is rough from disuse. "I heard what you did." Emily looks up in surprise. "Parker came yesterday," he continues, "told me everything." A heavy silence falls between them, filled with years of unspoken pain and pride. "You made your shot count," he says finally, turning to face her. In his eyes, Emily sees something that's been missing since Kandahar, a spark of the man who once taught her to read wind patterns and trust her instincts. She places the shell casing in his palm. "I had a good teacher." James Reed's fingers close around the brass casing, the physical connection to his daughter's moment of truth. His other hand reaches out hesitantly at first, then with growing certainty, and covers hers. "They're reopening the Kandahar investigation," Emily tells him. "Parker found evidence linking yesterday's ambush to what happened to your team." Something shifts in her father's posture, a straightening of the spine, a lifting of shoulders that have carried an invisible burden for too long. "Maybe we can both come home from war now," he says quietly. 6 months later, Emily receives orders to the Advanced Sniper Instructor School, becoming the first woman assigned to that position in the program's history. Her final evening at the base is marked by an informal gathering where teammates share the kind of genuine respect that can only be earned through proven capability. Mitchell raises his coffee cup in a toast to Reed, who taught us that the most dangerous assumption in combat is underestimating the person right beside you. Emily looks around at faces that have become familiar through shared experience and mutual respect. "I want to say something," she begins, setting down her cup. The room quiets immediately, the earned authority of someone who speaks rarely but whose words carry weight. 6 months ago, I was frustrated about being overlooked and underutilized. I thought the problem was that others needed to change their opinions about my capabilities. She pauses, choosing her words carefully. But I learned something important on that ridge. I wasn't climbing up there to prove anyone wrong. I was climbing because it was the right thing to do. Mitchell nods slowly. What was the motivation then? Being prepared when preparation mattered, having skills that could save lives when lives needed saving. Everything else was secondary. Her final words become part of the operational philosophy at Falcon Base. Don't train to prove doubters wrong. Train to be ready when readiness determines everything. 1 year later, Emily stands at the firing range of the Advanced Sniper School, watching a new class of students, including 4 women inspired by her example. Beside her, using a cane but standing under his own power, is James Reed. The Kandahar investigation has cleared his name, vindicating his warnings from 5 years ago. The northern ridge where Emily made her impossible shots has been officially designated as Overwatch Point Reed on military topographical maps. Future units operating in that region will know that the rocky outcropping was once the position of a sniper who saved 22 lives through perfect shots delivered from a place everyone had dismissed as tactically impossible. As twilight settles over the range, Emily adjusts the scope alignment for a young female operator struggling with long-distance accuracy. "Remember," she says quietly, "the rifle is just a tool. The real weapon is the person behind it. Their judgment, their patience, their willingness to take the shot when everyone else says it can't be done." The student nods, settling into position with renewed confidence. In the distance, James Reed watches his daughter teach the next generation, his expression reflecting pride not just in her accomplishments, but in who she has become, someone who climbs impossible ridges, not to prove others wrong, but because lives depend on reaching higher ground. The desert wind carries the crack of a perfect shot, hitting center target at 1,000 meters. Emily smiles, recognizing the sound of someone who has learned that the most important battles are won not through force of arms, but through force of will, the determination to be ready when readiness determines everything. The legacy of the Phantom Sniper continues, one precision shot at a time.